Chapter 7. Embracing the Role. The Pokémon Center training room had been transformed into a makeshift stage. Brock had cleared out the furniture to give Ash plenty of space, and Max had rigged up a portable speaker blasting upbeat music May often used in her performances. The setup was simple, just an empty room, some music, and a whole lot of potential for embarrassment. But it was enough to make Ash feel like he was preparing for a full-blown contest, and he hated every second of it. Ash stood in the center of the room like a statue carved from pure frustration, his arms crossed tightly over his chest, and his face twisted into a scowl. He was wearing May's outfit, a sleeveless orange top, a short blue skirt, and those cursed heeled boots that seemed more suited for torture than fashion. Sweat was already dripping down his forehead, and his long brown wig kept sticking to his face, no matter how many times he tried to brush it away. Every swish of the skirt was a cruel reminder of how far out of his comfort zone he was. "This is ridiculous," Ash muttered under his breath, tugging at the hem of the skirt as if he could somehow will it to grow longer. Why couldn't May just do this herself? "All right, Ash," Brock said, stepping forward and clapping his hands together like some overly enthusiastic dance instructor. "Let's start with the basics. May's routines always include some dancing, so we need to get you comfortable moving in sync with the music." "Dancing now," Ash groaned, his voice pitched somewhere between a whine and a growl as he glared at Brock. "Why do I have to dance? Can't I just throw out a Pokeball and yell, 'Go,' beautifully?" Max, who was leaning casually against the wall with a grin that screamed trouble, snorted so hard he nearly doubled over. "Yeah, sure, Ash. Just stand there like a Snorlax and see how fast the judges figure out you're not May. Contest coordinators don't just send out Pokémon, they perform. You've got to move, pose, and look like you're having the time of your life up there." Ash's eye twitched. "The time of my life? Max, I'm wearing heels." "Henedianan, Dian, Au, Kamane, Una, Adidistani. I can barely stand in these things, let alone, what's the word? Perform." Max smirked, clearly enjoying Ash's misery far too much. "Well, if it makes you feel any better, and it really shouldn't, you look hilarious. Like a mac-up in a tutu." "Thanks, Max," Ash deadpanned. "That's exactly the kind of encouragement I needed." Brock held up a hand to cut them off before Ash could launch into a verbal takedown of his young tormentor. "Enough. Ash, you're doing this because May needs your help. You promised her you'd do whatever it takes to help her win this contest, remember?" Ash groaned again, louder this time, and threw his head back dramatically. "Yeah, but I didn't realize whatever it takes meant humiliating myself in front of you two clowns." Brock smirked. "It's not humiliation, it's training. Now, follow my lead." He stepped to the side and began demonstrating a simple routine. A few graceful steps, a quick spin, and a flourish with his hands. It looked effortless, annoyingly so, but Ash knew better. Graceful movements weren't exactly his strong suit. "All right," Brock said, clapping his hands again. "Your turn." And tried to keep up with the beat this time. Ash sighed and stepped forward, the heels clicking awkwardly against the floor. He tried to mimic Brock's movements, but the moment he took his first step, the chaos began. His balance wobbled like a Jigglypuff balancing on a beach ball, and he overcompensated with a wild arm flail that sent him stumbling sideways into a nearby chair. "Ow! Oh no!" Ash yelped as his hip collided with the chair's edge. Max howled with laughter, nearly dropping to the floor as he clutched his stomach. "Oh man. That was amazing. You looked like a spinner on roller skates." Ash glared at him, cheeks burning. "Glad you're enjoying the show, Max. Maybe next time you can wear the boots and see how easy it is." "Not a chance," Max shot back, still grinning. "Besides, watching you fall on your butt is the highlight of my day." "All right, enough," Brock said, stepping between them before Ash could hurl the chair at Max. Ash? Try again. This time, focus on your balance. Don't overthink it. Just let the music guide you. Let the music guide me, Ash muttered under his breath, rolling his eyes. Sure, because music is definitely going to stop me from breaking my neck in these stupid boots. Still, he straightened up and squared his shoulders like a soldier preparing for battle. He wasn't about to let Max keep laughing at him, even if he felt like a total idiot. The music started again, and Ash took a deep breath. Okay, I can do this. One step at a time. Left foot, right foot. Easy. To his surprise, he managed the first few steps without tripping. He even pulled off a semi-decent spin, though it was more of a wobble than the smooth twirl Brock had demonstrated. For a brief, glorious moment, Ash thought he might actually get the hang of it, and then the boots betrayed him. As he tried to pivot into the next move, his heel caught on an invisible speck of dust, or maybe just thin air, and he over-rotated, arms pinwheeling wildly as he fought to stay upright. He failed spectacularly, landing on the floor with a loud thud. Ugh, I'm terrible at this, Ash groaned, sprawled out on the floor like a defeated Snorlax. Hey, nobody gets it perfect on the first try, Brock said, offering him a hand. May's been practicing these routines for years. You've been at it for, what, 10 minutes? Cut yourself some slack. Yeah, Max chimed in, smirking as he leaned over Ash. And look on the bright side, you've got way better comedic timing than May. Maybe you should ditch the contest and try stand-up instead. Ash shot him a glare so sharp, it could have cut through steel. Glad I could entertain you, Max. All right, let's take a break, Brock said quickly, stepping in before Ash could strangle Max. We'll come back to the dancing later. Maybe. For now, let's focus on something else. Ash groaned as he pushed himself up, wincing as he adjusted the ridiculous boots. Anything but this. Please. I'll even listen to Max talk about his strategy theories if it means I don't have to spin again. Careful, Max said, grinning. I might take you up on that. Ash rolled his eyes. Great. That's just what I need. 2 things I'm terrible at in one day. After the disastrous dance session, and several bruises to Ash's pride, not to mention his knees, the group moved outside to the Pokémon Center's courtyard. The open space was bathed in warm sunlight, the grass swaying gently in the breeze, and Ash couldn't help but feel a wave of relief. Trading humiliating dance moves for Pokémon training felt like stepping out of a storm and into calm waters. This is more my speed, Ash muttered, rolling his shoulders as he glanced over at Maze beautifully. The Pokémon hovered nearby, its delicate wings catching the sunlight like stained glass. It chirped cheerfully, seemingly unfazed by the fact that its new trainer was currently wearing a short skirt and boots that felt like they had a personal vendetta against balance. Brock stepped forward, his usual calm instructional demeanor on full display. All right, Ash, he said, gesturing toward beautifully. If you're going to take May's place, you need to bond with her Pokémon. They're the stars of her performances, and they need to trust you completely. Ash nodded, though the idea of bonding with someone else's Pokémon felt a little daunting. He wasn't exactly known for subtlety. His usual approach was more dive in headfirst and hope for the best. Still, he figured it couldn't be harder than dancing. He took a cautious step toward beautifully, raising a hand in what he hoped was a non-threatening gesture. Hey there, beautifully, he said, his voice soft and a little unsure. It's me, May. He cringed immediately. Even he didn't believe that. Beautifully tilted its head, its large, expressive eyes blinking at him in what Ash could only describe as pure skepticism. Smooth, Max quipped from the sidelines, arms crossed as he leaned against a tree. Real convincing. I think you had it fooled for, like, half a second. Ash shot him a glare but pressed on, determined not to let Max get under his skin. We're going to be working together for a while, so let's do our best, okay? He extended his arm, holding his breath as beautifully fluttered closer. To his surprise, it landed gently on his outstretched arm, its tiny legs barely brushing his skin. Hey, that's a good start, Brock said with an encouraging smile. Ash couldn't help but grin, a spark of confidence igniting in his chest. Z? E? I've got this. Don't get too cocky, Max interjected, his smirk widening. You still have to learn how to direct its moves during a performance. May doesn't just yell out attacks, she turns them into routines. It's like choreography. Ash's confidence wavered. Great. More choreography, he muttered under his breath, his earlier relief quickly evaporating. Brock chuckled, clearly enjoying the exchange. It's not as bad as it sounds. Start with something simple. Try combining a couple of moves. Let's go with Silver Wind and a spin, something basic to get you warmed up. Ash nodded, turning his attention back to Beautifully. All right, Beautifully. Use Silver Wind and then, spin around. Beautifully let out a cheerful chirp and flapped its wings, releasing a shimmering gust of wind that sparkled in the sunlight. It followed up with a smooth, graceful spin, its wings catching the light in a way that looked almost magical. Not bad, Brock said, nodding in approval. But you need to sound more confident. May doesn't just give commands, she performs them. Her voice has energy and excitement. Try again, but this time put some enthusiasm into it. Ash sighed, scratching the back of his head. Enthusiasm, huh? All right, I'll give it a shot. He straightened up, squared his shoulders, and tried to channel some of May's natural energy. Okay, Beautifully. Let's show them our best. Use Silver Wind, and then spin. Beautifully responded with another cheerful chirp, repeating the move with even more flair. The sparkling gust of wind swirled around it like a shimmering vortex, drawing an impressed whistle from Max, who had been mid-eye roll. Okay, Max admitted reluctantly. That was actually pretty good. Ash's grin returned, weeder than ever. Told you I could do it. Don't get ahead of yourself, Max shot back, folding his arms again. You've still got a lot to learn. May's routines aren't just about moves, they're about timing, style, and presentation. You can't just wing it and hope for the best. Ash raised an eyebrow. Oh, and you're an expert now? Max smirked. I've watched May practice 100 times. I've got her entire playbook memorized. Yeah, well, watching and doing are two different things. Ash shot back, his competitive streak flaring up. Why don't you step in and give it a try, Mr. Expert? D. Max held up his hands in mock surrender. No thanks. I'll leave the cross-dressing and public humiliation to you. All right, Brock cut in, clapping his hands to get their attention. Let's stay focused. Ash, you're making progress. But Max is right. You've got to think about the whole performance, not just the moves. Let's try adding a little flair this time. Maybe throw in a pose at the end. Pose, Ash repeated, his tone flat. Yeah, Brock said, demonstrating with an exaggerated flourish of his hands. Something like this. It adds drama and shows confidence. Ash stared at him. You want me to flourish? Yes, Brock said patiently. Max snorted. Then. Oh, this I've got to see. Ash sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. An intent ken. The one. And a die. It is yeah. I la Beautifully. Use Silver Wind, spin, and then, pose or whatever. Beautifully executed the first two moves flawlessly, but when it came time for the pose, Ash froze. He ended up awkwardly throwing one arm out, in what could generously be described as a half-hearted attempt at flair. Max doubled over laughing. What was that? You look like you were swatting at a bee drill. Ash's cheeks burned as he turned to Brock. Can I just stick to the moves and skip the posing? Brock chuckled, shaking his head. Not if you want to pull this off. But don't worry. We'll work on it. One step at a time. Ash groaned, already dreading the next session. But as Beautifully chirped happily beside him, he couldn't help but feel a tiny flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, he could survive this after all. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting warm orange hues across the landscape, the group trudged back to the Pokémon Center's training room. Ash's steps were heavy, each one a reminder of just how tired he was. His legs ached from dancing, his arms were sore from practicing poses, and his boots, those cursed boots, felt like they were conspiring to cripple him before this was all over. Still, the contest was only a few days away, and there wasn't time to complain. Not with Max around, anyway. All right, Brock said, clapping his hands like a coach preparing for the final play of the game. This is it, our last practice session for today. We're running through the full routine this time. Dancing, commands, expressions, the whole package. Ash, remember, you're not just battling. You're performing. Put on a show. Ash nodded, forcing himself to stand a little straighter despite the fatigue weighing him down. Got it, he said, though his voice lacked the enthusiasm he was trying to fake. Beautifully flitted around him, its delicate wings shimmering under the fluorescent lights of the training room. It chirped happily, far more energetic than its makeshift trainer. Ash gave it a small smile. At least someone was enjoying this. Max, of course, wasn't about to let Ash off that easily. He leaned casually against the wall, arms crossed, his smirk firmly in place. No pressure, Ash. Just remember, if you mess this up, it won't be me looking like a fool in front of a packed contest hall. Ash shot him a glare. Thanks for the vote of confidence, Max. Really motivating. Anytime, Max replied, his grin widening. All right. Focus, Brock said, stepping between them before the bickering could escalate. Ash, take your position. Beautifully. Get ready. Max, maybe try not to distract him for once. Max raised his hands in mock surrender. Vin, Pine, Totitan, Ninja Hanenyo, Dentanatamo, Enimtan, Eston. I'll just sit back and watch the magic happen. Ash rolled his eyes, but turned his attention to the task at hand. He moved to the center of the room, taking a deep breath to steady himself. The music started, a lively tune that made his heart pound even faster. All right, Beautifully, Ash called out, his voice bright and energetic. Well, as bright and energetic as he could manage. Let's dazzle them. Use silver wind. Beautifully chirped in response, flapping its wings to release a sparkling gust of wind that swirled around the room like glitter caught in a gentle breeze. Ash took a step forward, trying to match the beat of the music with his movements. Okay, not bad, he thought, feeling a flicker of hope. I've got this. Just keep it together. Now, spin and follow up with string shot. Beautifully twirled gracefully, its wings catching the light in a way that made it look almost ethereal. It followed up with a shimmering thread of silk, shooting it into the air so that it glimmered like a ribbon in the sunlight. Ash, determined to match the flair of the performance, added a twirl of his own. It was more awkward than graceful. He stumbled slightly, his boots betraying him once again, but he quickly recovered, plastering a confident smile on his face, as if nothing had happened. Max snorted from the sidelines. Smooth. Well, Max, Brock warned, not even looking at him. Ash ignored the comment and pressed on, focusing on the routine. Great job, Beautifully. Now finish it with a tackle. Make it flashy. Beautifully chirped again, darting forward with surprising agility. It performed a quick loop in midair before landing gently on Ash's outstretched arm. its wings fluttering lightly, as if to say, "Ta-da!" The music stopped, and for a moment, the room was silent. Max blinked, clearly caught off guard. Okay. That was, actually, pretty good. Ash turned to him, his mouth twitching into a grin. Really? Max shrugged, though his smirk didn't quite reach his eyes this time. Don't get too excited. It was good for you. Which is, I guess, better than I expected. High praise coming from Max, Brock said with a chuckle, clapping Ash on the shoulder. But he's right. You've come a long way, Ash. You're not just looking like May. You're starting to feel like her. If you can keep this up, you'll do great in the contest. Ash let out a relieved laugh, running a hand through the long brown wig that felt perpetually itchy. Thanks, guys. I couldn't have done it without you. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, Max interjected, his smirk returning in full force. You still have to survive the actual contest. And don't forget, there'll be judges watching your every move. And an audience. A big audience. Eyes. Grin faltered slightly. Thanks, Max. Just what I needed to hear. Hey, I'm just saying, Max continued, shrugging. You don't look like a total disaster anymore, but you're not exactly May level yet. So, maybe don't trip on stage. Ash rolled his eyes, though he couldn't suppress the small smile tugging at his lips. I'll keep that in mind. All right, that's enough for today, Brock said, stepping in before Max could deliver another snarky remark. Ash, you've worked hard, and it's paying off. Get some rest, you're going to need it. As they started packing up, Ash glanced over at Beautifully, who was still perched on his arm, chirping happily. He reached up to gently stroke its head, earning a soft hum of approval from the Pokémon. Thanks for sticking with me, Beautifully, he said quietly. We've got this. Right. Beautifully fluttered its wings in response, as if to say, of course. For the first time since this whole crazy plan started, Ash felt a genuine flicker of confidence. Sure, he wasn't May, not even close, but maybe, just maybe, he could pull this off after all. All right, he said aloud, straightening up and flashing a grin at his friends. Let's do this. Max groaned. Please don't start giving motivational speeches. One step at a time, Ash. One step at a time.